Good morning, everyone. So sorry for the late start this morning. Despite all our practice the last couple of years, we've still had a couple of technical difficulties this morning. I'm Julie LaRocque. You have tuned in to the quarterly meeting of the Everglades Technical Oversight Committee. And if we could, I would like the TOC representatives to introduce themselves. We have two people here in the audience, and we have two on Zoom.
Donato Surratt, Everglades National Park.
Lori Miller, Loxahatchee Refuge.
Ed Smith, DEP.
Dan Crawford, United States Army Corps of Engineers. Good morning.
Thank you all. I guess I should say I'm the representative of the Florida Water Management District. We have a number of agenda items today, and I wanted to first of all go over all the logistics and everything. So thank you all for being here. We will do a few more introductions in just a moment. But I did want to remind everybody that this is kind of a hybrid meeting. So we have a handful of people here in the audience. And for those of you who are using a phone, please try to mute your phone when you're not speaking and reduce the volume on your computer to 0. I have a computer in here. I had to remember to reduce it to 0 so that I don't get feedback in here either. If you are wanting to speak during the meeting, and so this would apply to the panelists and the attendees alike. So for the panelists, if you'd like to speak during the meeting, you're able to unmute yourself and speak, but we would certainly appreciate it if you would raise your hand first. When we get to the public comment time, those of you who are logged in as attendees, again, we'd like you to please raise your hand when we get ready for public comment. So I wanted to make that clear for everybody. We usually take those comments at the end of the meeting, and that will be the case today, most likely. Obviously, if we decide we're going to vote on something in particular later on in the meeting, we may take your comments ahead of that. First of all, really happy to have you guys here. We aren't able to take written public comment unless you are here in the audience, so I also wanted folks to be aware of that. The chat feature, please only use that if we have technical difficulties. Also wanted you to be aware of that. And then if we're able to put together some action items before the end of the meeting, we'll do that. But, you know, we always ask the reps for agenda items and all of that before the next meeting. So for those of you that have logged into the Technical Oversight Committee webpage, there's a ton of stuff out there as usual. First of all, on the main page, we've got the hopefully instructions, some of which I just gave you. And we have the second quarter settlement agreement report. So today's meeting covers through the second calendar quarter of 2022, which is June. So the report is there, the quality assessment report is there, as well as the data associated with the quality assessment report. Also, we have compliance tables posted for the refuge. It goes from 2007 through June of 22. For Shark River Slough and Taylor Slough and coastal basins, it's a shorter time period also, which goes through June of 22. Then you have to click on the link for the read-aheads for the meeting. So I just wanted to remind everybody about that. We have a number of read-aheads there for today, one of which would have just been posted yesterday. So I do want to go over those. We've got the draft meeting notes from our August meeting. We have the final agendas out there. The settlement agreement report presentation that Chelsea's going to give is posted on the webpage. In addition, we have 2 items that may be related to agenda item number 3. One of them is a revised presentation from Donato Surratt, and he'll discuss that at a later point in the meeting. And we also have posted there for you a memo that was given to the representatives by the principals to the consent decree. And we will be talking about that under agenda item number 3, which is the 2021 Shark River Slough item. So I don't think we have anything else for opening business. For those of you who are signed in as panelists, if you could please introduce yourself. First of all, I'll start with, let me start with the special master and see if you've gotten your audio working. Okay. To let everybody know, the special master can hear us and he can see us. It's kind of like Santa Claus. You better be nice and not naughty. For who are on from DEP, could you please introduce yourselves?
Good morning. This is Jordan TDO with DEP.
This is Kenny Heyman with DEP. Also,
We have a couple of others from DEP. Did you want to just unmute and say hello, please?
Hi, this is Mylene from DEP.
This is Luke from DEP.
Thank you very much. Who do we have from DOJ that?
Good morning. This is Judith Coleman from the U.S. Department of Justice.
This is John Barquette. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Barquette.
I apologize. I have no idea what happened. I just wasn't able to get into audio.
I blame it on electrons and sunspots.
Yeah.
Anybody else from DOJ?
I can see you, and you look fine. So.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, I'm smiling also.
Yay! We like smiles. Let's see. Who else do we have from DOJ? Anybody? How about DOI?
Robert Johnson, DOI.
Eric Stabenow, National Park Service, Department of Interior.
Thank you. Army Corps.
Bill Steffen, Headquarters Council, Army Corps.
Matthew Axtell, Army Corps of Engineers Council.
Thank you. Technical person from the Corps also on the call. Okay, he shall remain in the shadows. Do we have anyone else?
Hey, Julie, this is Dan. Just confirming. Yeah, we have Jim Riley and Brooks Moore from our Jacksonville office on the line as well.
Yep, Jim Riley here. Over.
Thanks a lot, you guys.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Do we have anyone else logged in as a panelist who would like to introduce themselves? I see someone as an attendee who may want to introduce himself, so I'll get to you in a moment.
This is Julia LaMonica with the South Florida Water Management District.
Thank you, Julia. Charles, did you want to go ahead and unmute and introduce yourself? I think we can do that.
Yes, hi, this is Charles DeMonica, Florida DEP Council.
Thank you, and we'll make sure you get logged in as a panelist for the next meeting.
Thank you.
All right, I think we got everybody now, so why don't we launch into the meeting? The next agenda item, if you will, is the actual agenda. I don't think do we have anybody that wanted to change our meeting agenda today? I forgot to ask you earlier.
This is Lori, no changes.
Okay, I saw Donato's head shake.
No changes from DEP. Julie, this is Ed Smith.
Okay, thanks a bunch. Next item is the meeting summary from the last meeting, which was August 30th. That was sent to the representatives and is posted on the webpage. So first question is, do you guys have anything you'd like changed or that we missed in the meeting notes?
I have no changes for the meeting notes. I do want to respond to one of the items as a part of last meeting. We were requested to have technical discussions post my August 30th presentation with the technical staff, and we did convene those meetings, and we addressed a number of topics that were raised with respect to the presentation I provided. You will find that, as Julie pointed out, there's an updated version of the presentation on the website now. It identifies some actually minor changes that were made to the presentation. Each one of those slides that have changes have a green star indicated either in the top right or bottom right corner of the slide. Some of the discussions that occurred focused on sodium-calcium ratios that were discussed in the first presentation I provided. And as a result of discussions with the team and some further investigation in the literature, it became pretty clear that it is more difficult to distinguish sources of water from the Everglades agriculture versus conservation area 2 because of this lens of water, of relic seawater that is sitting under or right near the surface. So that contributes to increasing concentrations of sodium and calcium and other ions. As a result, we've removed that from the presentation. While it's still a useful metric for distinguishing canal sources from marsh sources, I just didn't find it necessary to keep it in the presentation, as it didn't change the messaging of our presentation. Another change or focus was the approach that we were using for trend analysis. I was using R code that attempted to incorporate the metrics identified by Hessel, and it's an R code, but the USGS is using a different software that was actually built by Hessel, and it incorporates a higher level of power associated with identifying significant differences or significant trends. So I moved over to that tool, and you'll note that there are a couple of changes to the trend analysis results on the slides. Particularly, we see that the S344, which I was reporting, showing an increasing trend. That trend has been removed. We see that the S9A, which was showing an increasing trend, has also been removed. We do still see increasing trends coming from the S140 and S190 on the western boundary of Conservation Area 3. But on the positive side, we do see S11A and S150 showing improvements in concentrations. There were some other minor changes to the slides that you will be able to find in the presentation, and if you need to understand those in any further, I'm available to be reached to discuss those in any more detail. In the overall, nothing changed in our recommendations. We still acknowledge that there are regional drivers that are still having elevated levels of concentrations being delivered to the canals that are short-circuiting the marsh. And we still think there's a strong need to stay focused on the two projects that we come out of the SD33 working group, such that they will inform how we proceed with respect to trying to ameliorate the issues that we're seeing down at the SD33 as far as spiking concentrations contributing to exceedances. With that, that's my update. I took a lot of time. If there are no questions, I'll give the floor back to Julie.
Oh, Thanks, Donato. I may have a question, but can we check with the others on the meeting notes if those are okay with everybody?
No changes from the refuge.
Thank you. What about Ed and Dan?
No changes from DEP. Thank you, Julie.
This is Dan concurring with the minutes from on behalf of the Corps of Engineers.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So this is Donato. I make a motion to accept the notes as they are, and I do want to commend the note taker because you did a lot of work to try to consolidate all of that information into such a short summary. Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Did anybody object here? And commendations to our new note taker in the back of the auditorium. She's relatively new to my group, so we're glad to have her here helping us out. Okay. I don't know if you wanted us to ask you any questions, Donato, now or wait until the water year 21. I was just curious on your revised presentation, do you feel like the technical folks, I know you got together with a lot of technical people. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. Was there still some agreement about the conclusions you had? Because I'm struggling personally with the regional drivers comment, and I'm not clear, honestly, what all is embodied in the idea of the regional drivers.
So again, with the regional drivers, the point was just to show that there are still elevated levels coming into the canals that are being, water that's being delivered to SD33. I did not try to achieve consensus amongst the technical staff. We just wanted to make sure we were providing the correct numbers or the most correct numbers. And so that was the objective in our discussions. And make sure we weren't presenting information that wasn't fully evaluated, right? So like the sodium calcium ratios, I wasn't aware that this lens of water was sitting under there. So we wanted to make sure we dealt with all of those concerns in our presentation. So again, our recommendations still remain the same. We still think that the 333 working group projects need to be moved forward, and those are going to be the things that ultimately help us ameliorate the concerns that we're having down at the 333 structure. I'm not sure I answered your question.
No, you did fine. Did anybody else have any comments or questions for Donato at this point?
Hey, Julie, this is Ed Smith, DEP. Not really a question or comment, or not really a question for Donato, but just wanted to thank him for working with Mylene and Luke. I know he spent a lot of time working with them, helping them, get a better understanding of the Everglades system that we all work in day in, day out. They're both relatively new to our shop. So Donato, thank you so much for all the time you spent in working with them, helping them better understand your presentation and the revision you've made to them. I think it's certainly an improvement. We appreciate that. Echoing Julie's sentiments, I don't know if we DEP can come to the same conclusions about the elevated phosphorus, being regional drivers. When I took a look at the data that was presented, I see it that it's essentially meeting if it were part of the Q-Bell, it's essentially meeting the annual Q-Bell. So to say that it's an elevated phosphorus level and then making that connection to the 333, we still haven't been able to get to that point at DEP. So I think we've got to do more work on our end to get to that same conclusion. But we do appreciate it, and I think you've done a really excellent job of putting it all together. So thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Dan, anything else with Donato's update? Dan is not unmuting himself. How about you, Lori? Looks like you have a comment.
Yeah, and thanks again to Donato for putting it all together. And I think the purpose, and I'm just speaking for myself, on Donato reiterating the regional drivers is, let's not be pre-decisional. I think we need to keep it on the list until we take the further look at it, which, we have these studies going on right now, so let's not drop it until we get the conclusion of the 3 studies that we have. So I think that's the point. Let's just keep it there until we get this figured out.
Thank you. And I don't disagree with you. I think part of the reason I was asking a little bit more about the regional drivers is that it appears to encompass more than just the EAA from what I can tell. And so that's kind of one thing I was looking for. Ed, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what you said, Lori. I think at DEP, we agree with you. We don't need to, it's not that we're saying drop it, but we need to do more to understand. And I think it highlights the need for the S333 working group studies. I think those studies will fill some data gaps, some information gaps for us that are going to lead to a better understanding overall. So yeah, it's not that we don't, we don't see, we don't have enough information to say yay or nay on the regional drivers at this point. So that's all. And I just wanted to point out that, the S8 and the S150 data points would technically be meeting, if they were Q-Bell measuring points, would be meeting the Q-Bell for the annual. It doesn't meet the long term, but it does meet the annual, which was pleasant, kind of a pleasant surprise to see. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, everybody. And Dan never unmuted, so I'm going to assume he doesn't have any comments. Donato, thanks an awful lot as well. I think it was a great collaborative effort of everybody to kind of dive a little deeper into the data since our last meeting, so thank you. Okay, our next agenda item is the second quarter settlement agreement report. So that's Chelsea's report that covers through June of 22.
Mr. Brackett, 2C reps, thank you for having me to present the second quarter 2022 settlement agreement report. So we're adding another 3 months of data to total phosphorus compliance. And for the refuge, we've completed monthly tests for April, May, and June. And for Shark River Slough and Taylor Slough and coastal basins, because the compliance is assessed at the end of the water year ending in September, we're still reporting the 12-month tracking results ending in June. So from this summary table at the top for the refuge, let me get the pointer. Okay, starting from this summary table on the top portion for the refuge, those results are for each single month, April, May, and June. So the first column is the geometric mean TP concentrations of samples collected in the marsh. And next to it is the long-term level, the limit calculated based on stage. And so the long-term level was highest in May, then decreased from May to June, dropped 4 parts per billion. Then the observed data had increased, and with a slight increase from May to June, which did exceed the limit in June. But we were able to collect 14 samples. So June had an excursion. So I'll talk a little bit more on the next slide. And in the middle portion for Shark River Slough, those results are tracking results through each month. so through June, ending in June. So the 12-month flow weight mean TP concentration ending in June was 10.6 parts per billion, still higher than the long-term limit. And the percent of sampling events greater than 10 parts per billion was 57.7%, still higher than the guideline. So in the bottom portion for Taylor Through and coastal basins, those results are also 12-month tracking ending in each month. So the 12-month flow weighted mean TP concentrations ending in June was 5.1 parts per billion, less than half of the long-term limit of 11 parts per billion. And the percent of sampling events greater than 10 parts per billion is 4.3%, very low. So this slide focuses on Laxachi compliance status in the last 36 months. Here, the stepwise purple shading background at the marsh stage. So here from May to June, the stage increased, and the long-term levels calculated based on stage and the inverse relationship decreased. And the observed data geometric mean increased and then exceeded the limit in June, so this end point. So this red dots represent an excursion. So this is the second occurrence actually in the past 36 months, and the last excursion happened 20 months ago. Just to remind you, the refugee exceedance is defined as 2 excursions within a 12-month period. So we do not have an exceedance, but we have an excursion and need to keep eye on the next few months till May. So the 36-month average TP geometric mean is 6.8 parts per billion, and the long-term level average is 9.4 parts per billion. So this slide shows the same information, but stretching the long-term level to a 0 line, and we can clearly see the deviation between the observed data and the limit. So the 36-month average geometric mean was 2.6 parts per billion below the long-term level average. So this is the outlook table. So we covered these 3 months in the second quarter reporting. So with preliminary data, the outlook's good. And in the next 5 months, so geometric TP concentrations are consistent below their respective long-term levels. So move on to Shark River Stew. Those results are 12-month tracking ending each month. You see 12 months from July 2021 to June 2022. So the total flow was about 970,000 acre feet, and the 12-month flow with mean ending in June was 10.6 parts per billion, still higher than the long-term limit. So for historical compliance, this red line represents long-term limit, and those blue bars are the annual flow weight mean TP concentration and need to stay below this red line. So the last 2 dark blue bars represent the 2020 and 2021 when the compliance methodology shift to method 1.5. So 2021 met the compliance, and 2021 had an exceedance. So this slide shows the daily flow as structures in the past 3 years. So here the red line shows the flow exists by at S334 to South Dade. So only the flow above this red line is the net flow sent into Shark River Slough. We can see that in water year 2020, there's a long gap, about 7 months of gap with no flow sent to Shark River Slough. Then after the COP implementation, then the flow has been continuing throughout the record. And without any gap, even like for example, May 2022, the stage was very low, but it's still flowing at the S12C and D. This shows a similar information, but shows flow at individual structures. Here are the flows at the S12A, B, C, D discharging into Western Shark River Slough. So in S12AB has been closed most time this water year 2022. S12C and D has small flows. So overall, water year 2022 flow was much smaller than 2021. And this slide shows flow discharge into eastern L29 canal between S333 and S334. So in this segment of the canal, 90% of water come from S33 and S33N discharges. So in this middle panel for water pumped by S356, so only those yellow shading area is counted towards compliance calculation because it represents water coming from water conservation areas discharged into park. This slide shows similar information. So only flow above this red line is the net flow flowing into L29 canal. So this slide shows a bi-weekly flow, the net flow into Shark River Slough in these blue bars, and TP concentrations along with the flow shown in cyan dots. So here the yellow colors changed to blue, and the cyan colors means the compliance methodology changed to method 1.5 in May 2020. So as we can see in the current quarter flow was small, then resumed in June. And for the TP concentrations, I will talk about it in a moment when we see the stage plot. This shows the similar information, but add a string of diamonds represent the 12-month tracking fluid mean TP concentration ending in each month. So this end point is the 12-month tracking ending in June that we're reporting. So this slide shows the Shark River Slough system conditions in the past 3 years. So the second quarter ends along this black line. So with 3-month outlook, it covers the entire water year 2022 with provisional data. So here we focus on 3 parameters. The WCA3 stage shown in these solid blue line at the top, the TP concentrations shown in those yellow dots in the middle, and the Shark River Slough inflow shown in those blue shading areas at the bottom. So we know that after COP implementation, when this solid blue line at WCS 3 stage is below this gray dashed line, then the operations is in zone B, where the timing mutual flow formula controls releases from WCS 3A to Shark River Slough and requiring continuous flow. So first looking at the WCS 3A stage, so water year 2022 is lower than 2020 and 2021, and the stages stayed in zone B for 290 days, about 80% of the time. And it briefly stayed in zone A at the beginning of the water year, and in June and July, and the last 2 days when Hurricane Ian arrived. Now looking at the TP concentrations in the middle, shown in those yellow dots, as the stage was receding, the TP concentration was increasing from February and peaked in May when the stage reached its bottom. Then as stage recovered, TP concentrations reduced, then hovered around 10 parts per billion in the last 3 months. Now looking at the Shark River Slough inflow at the bottom, this royal blue line represents the net flow sent into Shark River Slough, excluding S334 flow. So again, we see long gaps, 7-month gap, no flow to Shark River Slough in 2020, and flow continues throughout the COP operation period. And for water year 2022, the total flow surpassed 1 million acre feet on September 13th, and the limit reached 7.6 parts per billion. And this even before the arrival of Hurricane Ian and the wet conditions in the latter half of September. So overall, water year 2022, we see a low stage and substantial flow. So with the provisional data, water year 2022 flow mean concentration is 10.2 parts per billion, exceeded limits 7.6 parts per billion. So move on to Taylor Slough and coastal basins. Those are also 12-month tracking results ending in June. And the total flow is near 290,000 acre feet. And the 12-month flow weighted mean ending in June with 5.1 parts per billion, less than half of the limit fixed at 11 parts per billion. For historical compliances, the annual flow limit TP concentrations were far below the limit, 11 parts per billion. And this slide shows flows at structures in the past 3 years. So 90% of flow come from S332D in the bottom purple shading area, and also the S18C at the top in the yellow shaded area. Then in the middle, those dark blue areas represent flow from G737. And for this quarter, we can see the flow was small in April and May, then resumed in June. For flows at individual structure, so S18C, same thing, we see gap in April and May, then resumed the flow in June. Then G737 and S328 flow were closed in this quarter. Then S332D pumping stopped in March and May, then returned to its capacity in June. So this slide shows daily flows in and out of S332D flowway. So the major flow source, actually the only flow source here is from S332D pumping, showing this purple shading area. And only the flow under this red line was excluded from compliance calculation because the water that carried by S332DX1 north to the C111 south, the detention area. So this neon green line represents a flow at S328, which is a surface discharging point into Taylor Slough downstream of S332D. And this slide shows the sampling event flow, shown in these blue bars, and the TP concentrations in cyan dots. Those are the basis used for calculating the 12-month the annual flow weight mean TP concentration. So here we see we only had 2 events that are TP concentrations higher than 10 parts per billion. So the rest was below 7 parts per billion. Then at a string of blue diamond represent the 12-month tracking ending in each month. And then the last diamond, the 5.1 parts per billion, we're reporting ending in June for this quarter. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. Does anybody have comments or questions for Chelsea? You must have done a really, really great job. I'm not hearing any comments or questions. I do want to point out or remind everybody we did have an excursion in the refuge in June, so we'll be keeping an eye on the refuge for the next 12 months. So, thanks, Chelsea. Okay, our next agenda item is a follow-up discussion of the exceedance at Shark River Slough during federal water year 2021. I will confess, along with some of the others I've been talking with, it's getting a little difficult to keep track of which year we're talking about because we are still working on water year 2019, for example. Back to some comments from Donato. So since the last TOC meeting, the technical staff have gotten together and looked at all the data. So again, I really appreciate everybody doing that. We talked pretty extensively at the last meeting about the S333 working group. So I want to assure everyone that the working group has been meeting and is planning to continue their work. And then in the meantime, we have a memo from the principals to the consent decree. So if you guys are okay, maybe I'll go through some highlights from that memo. Those of you that are online, I did mention that memo earlier, so I hope you've had a chance to pull it up so you can look at it. This is a memo. The subject is December 2022 memo, so it's pretty recent. It looks like the principals mostly signed it on or around the 7th of December or a little bit earlier, so just to kind of give everybody a flavor. I'm just going to read a few things from the memo to give everyone the highlights. So, you know, the memo launches with the previous memo, so indicating that they provided us a memo in October of 2020 with guidance that the water year 2019 exceedance was related to a localized phenomenon, and we're referring to that often as localized drivers of phosphorus release and transport, and linked to patterns of stage and flow, and less related to phosphorus coming from the Everglades agricultural area. And so they're further providing additional information to the Technical Oversight Committee representatives regarding exceedances both in water year 2019 and water year 2021. There's several bullet point paragraphs in the memo. I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. First of all, when looking at water year 2019, the principals directed the collaborative forum outside of the TOC and established the S333 working group to have further discussions and maybe be able to propose possible solutions aimed at resolving exceedances in the headwaters of the S333 structure. And the working group did meet. They proposed a number of options as well as some research projects that might better inform those options. In their original October 2020 memo to the TOC, the principals indicated that the results of the studies from the working group and any solutions would be made available to the public and the TOC representatives. And, you know, I know we keep talking about bringing that to the TOC, but their memo was pretty firm, and I think they reiterated a little bit later here. So these activities serve the principles method for addressing, I'm sorry about my voice skipping, you guys. I have to keep the button pressed here. But the working group activities do serve as the principles method for addressing the current and potential future Shark River Slough exceedances that occur as a result of localized drivers in the headwaters of the S333 structure. So I just kind of want to reiterate, they're talking about the current and potential future exceedances at Shark River Slough here. Further, the memo gives some additional information about what the working group is doing and working on. And again, many thanks to Everglades National Park and the district staff for launching into these studies. They didn't say thanks, I'm saying thanks. But they're working very hard right now on the phase 1 studies, and will then kind of look at the results and decide if another phase of these studies is warranted or if there's enough information at that point to make recommendations. I do want to point out, and thank you to whoever's got the memo up on the screen, you know, in the next paragraph, the principals reiterate what we've discussed here, that the studies are getting closer to being complete, and they're expected to hopefully get all completed by June. Completing the studies and developing recommendations, I'd like to point out, might be a couple of different things, but the studies are hopefully able to be completed by June. So the principals should, at their discretion, determine how to proceed once these studies are done with the recommendations that come out of those studies, and then we'll make this information available to the Technical Oversight Committee and to the public. I do want to also share some information from this concluding paragraph of the memo. Beyond the 2 studies that are going on with the working group and any resulting solutions, the state is continuing implementing restoration strategies, which is expected to further improve water quality flowing into the Everglades. There are also global changes being implemented to the Central and South Florida system, and those are expected to decrease reliance on the S333 complex and increase water flow through conservation areas 3A and 3B. The principals and their agencies continue to use their best efforts to work cooperatively toward achieving the restoration and maintenance of water quality in the Everglades. And that is the end of the memo. So wanted everyone to hear that information. If you aren't here in person, again, I would reiterate that you can grab a copy of that memo off the Technical Oversight Committee webpage. It is posted as a read-ahead for today's meeting.
Julie, thank you for that quick summary of this letter to our body. I do want to just provide a little filler, particularly with respect to the 333 sediment characterization study that we're pointing out will be done in June 2023. There are several components of the study, which makes it a little complicated to try to actually meet deadlines and provide real solid, firm deadlines. We have 3 components of the study. One of them focuses on an experimental investigation using acoustic surveying techniques of the canal floor to try to give us an understanding of the sediment volume and the sediment structure. We're looking at receiving a full report or a finalized report on that portion of the study in March of 2023. The second component of our study focuses on trying to understand the sediment itself from not an experimental perspective, but how we've done it historically forever by collecting sediment cores and flock samples, as well as surface water samples in the canal upstream of the 333 structure and in front of the 333 structure. This aims at trying to give us the specific volumes that would be associated with any type of remedial action that would may come out of this effort, such as dredging or sediment sumps, stuff like that. We're looking to see that component of the study to be complete in, I'm sorry, I said March for the first one. The first one is going to be done in April. This portion of the study should be done in March 2023. Then our final study, which focuses on sourcing or determining the sources of nutrients coming to the 333 structure. That is done by looking at sediment samples and flock samples upstream, adjacent to the Miami Canal, in the Miami Canal, adjacent to L67A Canal, in the L67A Canal, and similarly down at the L29 Canal and in the marsh adjacent to that. And this one is going to take us a little more time, and this is what's bringing us around to the June 2023 reporting period for this portion of our investigation. So that's basically our timeline that we're looking at to bring the final results for each one of these components to the table. Dilip Shinde is leading this effort from the Everglades National Park side, and he's not here right now, but he would be available to provide an update prior to this June 2023 if so deemed by the principals or this body. So just wanted to provide a little more beef to what's happening on the park side with respect to the 333 study and open the floor for any kind of questions at this point.
Thanks, Donato. And I did not ask our modelers to come to the meeting today, so I don't think we have an update on the hydrodynamics side of the house, but that is moving on as projected. And I know there's going to ultimately be some sort of a cross flow of data because I think your results are going to help us with the other side of the project. I also want to recognize, during my time here at the district, I'm used to like a construction project with a deadline, but a lot of scientific studies often take longer than you think because you see some unexpected things you need to look at further or something didn't quite work out the way you planned. So I appreciate you mentioning that, and also everybody trying to stay on track with getting this work done. So thanks a lot. Do we have any other comments or questions regarding the principal's memo or anything else here today about Shark River Slough exceedance for federal water year 21?
This is John Barquette. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Very well. So I read the memo with great interest actually last evening in preparation for this morning. And let me tell you my concern just in the role that I play in this process. we had a 2019 violation, a 2021 violation. Looks like we're going to have a 2022 violation. And what the settlement agreement enforced via consent decree requires that if the park phosphorus limits are violated, then additional remedies will be taken. And the state parties shall not implement more intensive management of the SDAs as the sole additional remedy. The document doesn't say how long, how much time the state parties have. It just says remedies will be taken. Well, 2019, we did have a couple of years of COVID. I could understand how things could get delayed during that process where we were all working remotely, but it's now 2022. It looks like we won't get information until 2023, mid-2023, and I appreciate the fact that study is required and that there are restoration strategies. And then I also took a look at the Technical Oversight Committee's role under the agreement. It's not really your job to create a schedule. It's your job to review, to comment, to advise, to suggest, to recommend. It's the state party's job to take remedies. But I'm a little concerned. This document is between the United States and state parties. There are 3 U.S. entities that signed on to this memo. Maybe that means that they're content with the schedule. I'm not quite sure about that. There's really nobody that's objected, and I realize this just came out last night, to the timing, but I'm a little concerned that we may not see an actual remedy as required under the document for 4 or 5 or maybe 6 years after the 2019 violation, and we'll now have 3 and 4 years, it looks like. So for the counsel for the DOJ, Ms. Coleman, for Mr. DeMonico, I would appreciate it if you would meet and confer and then send me a joint statement, whether it's a letter or an email, it doesn't have to be that formal, just telling me what your views are on the compliance with this language in the decree. If the park phosphorus limits are violated, then additional remedies will be taken, and how this memo relates to compliance with that language. I don't think it's the TOC's role to make these decisions. It's the state party's job to comply with the document. But here you have 3 federal agencies and 2 state parties issuing a joint memo that seems to suggest that everybody's on board with just waiting. And maybe that's right. I don't know that it is or it isn't, but I'm a little concerned that there's no schedule here. No one's being held to a schedule. This could go on and on and on and on at the rate that we're going. And I think we need a little bit more explanation as to what exactly the potential restoration strategies might be as a result of these studies. What are those that are now in the works that are identified in the last paragraph just generally, and then how they relate to protection of Shark River Slough relative to these exceedances. So Ms. Coleman, Mr. DeMonico, if you don't mind, and then whoever else needs to be involved on your end, get together a meeting, confer please over the things I've just identified, and then send me just a report, whether again it's by letter or email. And then if we need to have a call, let's have a call, because I want to understand better how remedy relates to schedule here, timing. It's all a little vague to me, and I can give you time when it's 1 violation in 2019. I've been pressing you a little bit to find out the reaction to the 2021 violation. Now it looks like there'll be another one, and this memo seems to anticipate that. But 3 and 4 years and no real schedule with no identification of specifics is just a little troubling, particularly when at least I'm charged to make sure that a federal consent decree is being followed. So I would appreciate it if you'd undertake that and then get back to me. The holidays are coming up. You don't need to rush to do this before the end of the year, but certainly by the first week of January, the second week of January, whatever is convenient, get back to me and I really want to understand better how this memo really relates to timing and then specific potential actions that might be taken. Any questions on that, Ms. Coleman or Mr. DeMonico? I'll start with you, Ms. Coleman.
Good morning, Special Master. No, no questions except I do think the district's general counsel and Ms. Lamonaco should be part of that conferral.
Yeah, I'll leave that entirely to you, whoever would like to be involved. I need to understand better what the plans are. This is all a little bit too vague for me and hopefully you have the same attitude since you're really the enforcer of the decree. I think we need to see a little bit more detail here, a little bit too skeletal for my likes, given what it looks like 3 violations in 4 years.
Understood. We have a good working relationship with council. I'll be happy to meet and confer with them. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I know you do, and I'm sure it'll be a very professional discussion, but we need more details. Mr. DeMonico, did you want to say anything?
Yes, thank you, Special Master, for those comments. Yes, we do have a really good working rapport with the Justice Department, with the South Florida Water Management District. So Attorney Kenny Heyman and I will meet with Julie LaMonica. We'll deal with Ms. Coleman, and we will certainly comply with your request. So we'll... Yeah,
so why don't we just pick a date? How about by January the 9th? Is that sufficient time?
That's good. That's good for me, if that's good for the other council.
Anybody? I'll count to 3 to see if there's any objection to January the 9th. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'll just expect a report by the 9th. And then once I read that, I may get you on the phone. We'll take it a step at a time here. Thank you for that. I didn't mean to go off on a separate track with council, Julie, but I just wanted to make sure we focus on this a bit more.
No, that's fine. We always appreciate your comments, Mr. Barquette. And Charles, you still have your hand up. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I should take my hand down, but thank you, Julie.
No, just checking. So thank you so much. So I think we have several other attorneys on the call. I think from my perspective, we're looking to Judith and Charles and others to get the folks together, the appropriate folks, as you've indicated. So thanks for that. Any other comments or questions on this agenda item or the memo from anybody? I'm not seeing any. I think we need to see if we have any public comments. So I would ask those of you who are logged in as attendees or possibly here in the audience, if you have a comment, if you could raise your hand, we would appreciate that. And I'll give you a moment to do that. Okay, we have a raised hand from someone whose phone number ends in 2134. Could you please identify yourself? Somehow we need to get you unmuted. Oh, there we go.
Yes. Yes, this is Drew Martin with the Sierra Club. I don't really have any comment, but I just want to let you know I'm here and I'm listening, and I appreciate the work. I agree with the Special Master, and I appreciate his comments.
Thank you, Drew. Anyone else from the public want to make any comments? I will say I congratulate anybody who can figure out how to put their hand down in short order. That's not my specialty at all. So I don't see anyone else wanting to make a comment. Oops, we got one more from, Drew put his hand up and put it back down again. I think he's showing off. Okay, given that there isn't any other public comment, I did want to take a look at the bottom of your agenda. This is for the reps. Violetta has been kind enough to identify several dates during which we could have our next quarterly meeting. So we have 2 dates in February. We've got February 21st or 28th. We have April 25th or May 2nd or May 16th. Do we have comments or suggestions about when we might hold our next meeting? I do want to point out 3 months from now is in March, which is not on here, so we don't have any dates available in March here. I do want to remind you all, we're probably not going to have final USGS data for Federal Water Year 22. We're not going to have that in February, so I just want to throw that out. And I'm not hearing that we're going to have results from the working group by February, so I don't know if you really want to look at February or if you want to look toward April and May for our next meeting.
Well, this is Lori with the Refuge. I am available for the first 4 dates, and it does seem that we need to kind of incorporate what data we'll have so that we can, make it a productive meeting. So I don't know, I would probably either shoot maybe for like the April date or the 28th, February 28th.
Okay, what about Dan and Ed? Are you guys able to check your calendars?
Hey, Julie, this is. Oh, go ahead, Ed.
Oh, thanks. So the February 28th is fine. That works for me. The May 2nd, May 2nd and May 16th work for me. The others don't. I've got commitments.
Hey, Julie, this is Dan. I can also do any of the first 4 dates like Lori. I tend to agree. I'd rather not defer this all the way till the 16th of May. So I think cross-referencing Ed's calendar, it sounds like it's 28 February or 2 May.
Okay.
All the dates work for me.
I'm sure they all work for me too.
I can do February 28th.
Okay, so does it sound like we want to go ahead and meet on February 28th, and we may or may not have a bunch of new information to present? Is that going to be, I'm a little concerned about that because I know it's an effort for everybody to get here. So I think we're looking at either February 28th or May 2nd, and understanding Mr. Parquette wants things to move along. So
if nothing else, February 28th, it may be a short meeting, but at least we'll get a bit more information by then on Shark River slough-related activities. And then we can hold May 2nd, even if that's a short meeting on the 28th. I can do May 2nd also.
okay, I think I'm all right with
the
that.
ideal, honestly, would be late March or April, but it doesn't sound like that's going to work.
Correct. That's the case. We have a lot of competition for our facility here. So, all right. So it sounds like the next meeting will be February 28th, and it could end up being a pretty short meeting. So for folks to keep that in mind, and I'm fine with that. Anything else? I think the biggest action item or new action item we got out of today's meeting is for the attorney. So hopefully that will all get done timely as requested. Anybody have anything else for the meeting today?
I just have a quick question. So does that mean February 28th and May 2nd, as the special master mentioned?
I'm expecting that might be the case because I would assume May 2nd we would have the final USGS data for water year 22 at that time. And we can always reconfirm that on February 28th, but I think from what I'm hearing, that would probably be the sequence.
Okay, just wanted to get it on the schedule.
Anything else, anybody? Don't see any more raised hands. So thank you all so much for attending. I really appreciate it. And everybody, please have a safe and happy holidays. And this will conclude our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.